In this video, we're going to focus on finding topics for your blog posts, video, podcasts, and more. So if you have been sitting at your desk, looking at your computer like, what in the world am I going to write about this week or present this week to my audience? I'm going to give you some ideas that you can use immediately. So the first thing you might think about or consider doing whenever you're trying to find topics is having a brainstorming session. Now, that's literally just sitting around for maybe 15 to 30 minutes, just throwing out topics that your audience would enjoy. So things that you've personally seen from other people, or just that thing you used to do back in grade school where you'd have a blank piece of paper and you just sit there and just write like crazy until you came up with something. That is this type of moment. So I would spend at least 15 to 30 minutes just thinking of topics and that your audience would like. The second thing you may want to consider is thinking about, how did you get started in your industry? So start to think about your audience and why you got started and how you got started. Has something changed since you've gotten into the industry? For example, if you started back in 1994 and we're here in 2018, how has your industry evolved? So when you first got started, what made you want to jump into this industry? How did you know this was the right industry to go into? And then move forward into your present time to figure out, okay, what has changed? What has evolved? Because when we think about even the industry of internet marketing, it has completely changed since 1994 up until 2018. So if you have the experience in this, definitely go ahead and share with us how your industry has changed and how you got started. So the next thing we want to focus on for ideas is looking at your product. Why is it the best? Tell us something about that. What are some of your unique selling points and your benefits and your features, and how are you different from other people who might be selling the same exact thing? So think about your sales letter and try to write that out in a paper or in a blog post or in a video. Just share with us that information. The next thing you want to focus on is, what are some of the issues that are going on in your industry right now? So I kind of used internet marketing earlier, but think about some of the things that you've seen right now in your industry. Do you have to fight to be seen? Is your industry overcrowded? Does it seem like you have to do or go the extra mile to get visibility, or spend money on Facebook ads, or are people going out of business? How many people started in the business and now have kind of ventured off and moved away? Are there people who are unethical in their approaches? So these are some of the things that you can talk about when it comes to the issues that are going on right now in your industry. The next thing you want to focus on is some of the challenges and the success. So it's still underneath that category, but you want to focus on some of the greatest challenges. Like I said, you can maybe even look at your industry and say, oh my gosh, it's so hard or difficult to be seen as an author, or if you have the right Facebook ad, or you speak to the right person or connect with the right publisher, you will see success in your industry. So those are some of the things that you can start thinking about right now. And I would also say, when it comes to the success in your industry, think about your clients and helping them realize their potential. So what do you want to help them do? Do you want them to be successful in getting away from their cubicle? Or are you also more like, oh, I need to screw the commute, or whatever it is that you want your audience to take away, however you want them to be successful, their end result? That's something that you can possibly write about as well. So the next thing we want to focus on is finding the person that's most successful in your industry. Of course, we have those kind of influencers, those experts in our industries, the gurus, the go-tos. So we want to look at them and write down their names, and what you should be focused on is to maybe get an interview with that person. So if they are the leading person in the industry, then they would make a awesome interview. An awesome interview. So I would, schedule to maybe connect with them by phone or Skype or video, and you can turn that conversation into numerous topics depending on what you're discussing in the conversation. So think about those industry leaders, and maybe reach out to them. Or even if they're not an industry leader, maybe someone else who is in the industry, they kind of know about your industry, but they complement the industry, so they're not in direct competition of you, but you're able to reach out to them to pretty much complement some of the things that you're discussing. So just think, this is content. So think about who you know or who you don't know, and how you can work with them best, and they can complement what you are doing. The next thing that you may want to look into is what is happening right now in your industry. We spoke a little bit about that earlier, where we were saying, like, what are some of the issues going on in your industry right now. But I would look at also what's happening right now. So some of the trends that are happening on social media and in the search engines, you can always go to BuzzSumo and look up those things and see what people are writing about and what they're talking about. Twitter, they have the trending tab, or you can go and look, and you can even go look at hashtags, but I would stay really connected to the articles in the search engines and see what people are talking about. For instance, we had a mentee or student who was a wealth expert, and her clients were preparing for retirement. So she had to grasp them right before, of course, their whole thought path, their thought process of moving into retirement. So one of the topics that was trending at the time was the transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. So that was like really an in thing where people were always talking about it. So she jumped in because it was such a hot topic at the moment. So she used it as an article, as a blog post, as a podcast, all so that she can support everything that she already knew. So it's very, very helpful to know that the industry was talking about that, so she could just jump right in to what they were discussing. All right, so the next thing that you may want to focus on is the tools that your audience needs to get things completed. So what are some of the things that you are personally using in your business right now, or what's happening in your industry, even if you're not using them, and how can they help others? Almost like a behind the scenes type content. So if I am using Canva, for instance, I use Canva to do a lot of social media posts and prepare for my podcast and all of that. So that's a resource that I use that I don't mind sharing with others. So I would maybe do a screen capture of me using the software and showing them how everything goes together. So you can either just inform them, hey, this resource is out here, or actually show them how you are using it. And so it's super simple, super easy to do, but it's very, very helpful for your audience to know how can they stay afloat. And so when you think about your industry, what are those tools? What are those softwares that people need right now to be successful in the industry? The next thing you may want to focus on is, why do you enjoy being in your industry? So if you've been in your industry for 20 plus years, or even a year or 2 or 3, let your audience know, why are you there? What makes this industry different from the other industry? What skills do you have? What motivated you to stay? And did it give you time and freedom to do what you wanted to do? Or is it an industry that's going to continue to grow? Let people know why you enjoy this industry. And if you don't, then I don't know what to say. Maybe you want to write a blog article that shares with people why you don't necessarily like the industry, but you stay in the industry. It could be because you're solving a problem at the end of the day. So how you feel about it versus what's happening on the other side, the rewards and the benefits of seeing people use your content or your software or your product or whatever is so much, it's rewarding for you. So think along those lines, but definitely, hopefully, you like your industry. All right, so the last thing we're going to focus on right now is, and I talked about it a few moments ago about the industry leaders and, of course, maybe interviewing them, but I would also even put together some content, maybe a blog post or a report that's telling people where they can find other blogs, other websites, other social media profiles that could help complement what you're doing. And that was super helpful because people are always doing the resource guides, like a podcast directory, for instance. I downloaded that a couple of months ago, but there was a directory of all of the podcasts out there. If you wanted to be interviewed, you could inquire about the guest posting or actually being on their podcast or whatever they're doing. But he gave us a list of different podcasts that were out there in different industries. So he grouped them by industries, and then he had the names and where you could find them, their blogs, their websites, all of that. So their audience was able to easily use that to navigate their journey when it came to podcasts. And so that is it for this video. Hopefully you found a strategy or technique that you can use to help you find topics for your audience.